Alright, welcome back to FastGadgets. So what do I have planned for today? Well, I'm running Fedora 26 as you know, but Fedora 27 release has recently come out, so I want to go ahead and do an upgrade. So what I'm thinking of doing, I actually went ahead and checked the software update, the graphical interface. And if I do software update, usually here in the featured application we would see Fedora 27. I was hoping to be able to do another graphical update and see how it went. But it's not there yet, and I don't want to wait. So I'm going to go ahead and do a old-fashioned command line update. So I know many of you are not keen on the terminal, but what the heck, right? What do we got to lose? So first let me get this zoomed up a little bit, and I'm gonna literally run through these commands that we have on the left here. So first thing I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna go ahead and become root, because I really don't like having to do sudo every single time I run something. So I'm a bad boy, so I'm not gonna do the DNF upgrade of Fedora 26, and besides which it told me it was all up to date, so I think there's probably some updates out there, to be honest, but I'm not gonna worry about it. So I'm gonna run the plugin for the system upgrade. I think it's already installed, and we're about to find out. Actually, I missed a word, didn't I? I want DNF install. So I'll right click and copy, and I don't like typing. Paste it in, press enter. We're going to find out if that upgrade is installed or not, and I think it is, but no, it's not actually. So we'll go ahead and get the upgrade tool installed, the text-based upgrade tool. And while I'm waiting, might as well grab these update packages. So I've got my iPhone SE set up as well, so when I reboot, of course, I'm going to have to stop my capture, and I'll just take over with the iPhone, which is running right now, because you just never know. And I'm gonna move my iPhone over a little bit. Okay, so that's done. Now I can do edit, paste, and I'm gonna paste in the command to download Fedora 27. It wants to know if I want to continue. I'm gonna say yes. This part could take a little while. I am running on that 25, and I do want to install that key, by the way. Notice that right there. I'm running 25 megabits. I'm looking at possibly getting an AT&T 50 megabit connection and TV for $10 a month. No, I'm sorry, $20 a month more. So I'm paying $30 a month for 25 megabits, and I could get 50 megabits and something like 40 or 50 TV stations for $50 a month. So I'm considering it. You know, uploading my videos would go faster. You know, downloading stuff like this would go faster. So it's something I think might benefit me. So this is going to take a little while. I think I'm going to stop my recording while I'm waiting. I figured no sense in slowing things down all the more. And when I come back, we're going to do a reboot and see what luck we have getting Fedora 27 installed. Well, since we're waiting here, I thought we would roll through the Fedora 27 talking points on what's going to be updated. I'm only going to hit on a few of them. I'm going to grab the ones that I think are most relevant to desktop users. Your mileage may vary on this. There may be some more that you want to see. And if so, if you do a Google search for Fedora 27 talking points, you will find this particular document pretty quick. I think the first thing that actually surprised me quite a bit is that there's no longer going to be any alpha releases. As an end user, that doesn't bother me a bit. As a early adopter of Linux installs, I liked putting the alpha in a virtual machine so I could test it out. Is it a huge deal? Not really. We could do a network-based install and install Rawhide, which is the latest of everything if you really want to get an idea of where they're going. So, it doesn't really kill me that we're not going to have those updates available anymore, but unfortunately we won't see an alpha release anymore, so we're going to go straight to beta. They probably weren't getting much feedback on the alpha release, so they decided to do that. So let's look at some of the changes. One of the big things is that there will be 32-bit UEFI support now. So there are some 64-bit systems out there that have 32-bit UEFI BIOSes built in, and they weren't supported before this version of Fedora, or you may have had to create a custom kernel to get support previously. So that's sort of important. It looks like trim is going to be supported on encrypted disks. So it looks like the key here is that it's only going to infect newly created encrypted disks during installation. Personally, I don't encrypt. Depending on what you do in your life, it might be worth doing. If you're really afraid the government is going to come in and the FBI and take your computer, it might pay to have encrypted disks. Most people don't worry about it. Let's see. GNU-C library is going to be updated to 2.26. Kerberos credentials are going to get an update. It's supposed to make the system more secure. Of course, no more alphas. RPM is going to be updated to 4.14. I don't know if the end user is really going to notice much of a difference with that, but supposedly it's supposed to help system administrators. The Perl package is going to install core modules. I think that's a good thing. I think before the core modules weren't installed, then you'd have to do those separately yourself, so that's helpful. Now, looking at the accepted self-contained changes that have been made to Fedora 27, there are Chinese serif fonts now. We're going to see improved Bay and Cherry Trail device support, which I think is pretty cool. So if you're going to run it on a computer that has a system on a chip that's running improved Bay Trail or Cherry Trail, that's going to help you out. They're finally removing SSH1 from OpenSSH clients. So if you're using any of the clients, SSH1 will no longer be installed. So if you're connecting to a server that's using SSH1 by default, you will not be able to connect to it. What's the solution? Well, technically speaking, you should be updating your server to SSH2 today. So if you haven't, well, you don't want to, dumb the client down to SSH1 to support that. Now, most of us are not using SSH to servers, so again, this is more of an administrative thing. Yumex DNF is going to be replaced with DNF Dragora. Again, I don't think most of us will notice. This is the graphical package manager. We'll see if it's more fluid. I've noticed, when I try to pull software updates via the graphical interface, it tended to be a little bit slow, which was kind of annoying for me. That's why I would stick with the command line overall, because it just was so much faster on grabbing updates or installing packages in general. And I'm going to add to that, there were way less errors using the command line versus the graphical interface. Not that there were a ton of errors. I can tell you right now it's 10 times better than the Windows Store and the oodles of errors that I get from the Windows Store. And I know it sounds like I'm bashing. The Windows Store is actually way better than it used to be, so it is improved, but there still are a few problems there. So Samba AD, I'm not sure if they're saying here it's getting updated or it's simply being installed. It sounds like it's getting installed. So it's a Active Directory set of tools and protocols that are open source. There has been Active Directory support previously, but I think this is going to make things a little bit more simple in getting Linux set up as a domain controller. So you can use open source if you want, if you're interested in doing Active Directory experimentation. Specifically in Fedora Workstation, supposedly there are improved settings in the display and network. They've been updated to make it easier to do configuration. I used to always use, again, the command line, but more and more I haven't been. There's newer commands that I'm not really even familiar with anymore that I don't even use yet for, configuring the network card, for example. It's just easier to use the GUI. Most of the time, you don't have to do anything. If you're going to use DHCP as your, client base, it automatically gets an IP and sets up the driver for the card and all that good stuff. So you don't have to worry about anything. It's just done for you. It's a little bit different, of course, if you're going to set up a server, because you usually want a static IP. And you may not have the GUI if you are setting up static IPs on servers. The debugger is improved. I'm really hoping that's the case. We'll see what happens. There's a new system search, but this, I was reading some other documentation, is regarding GNOME 3, which is also getting upgraded to 3.26, by the way. I am using right now KDE Plasma, so I don't know if that search would be updated in the Plasma interface. Here again, resizable tiling is in GNOME. System tray removal, I did miss this one, is a GNOME 3 change. I don't know. I don't think there's anything that I had to call upon in the system tray lately, so I could see the logic of having that removed. So we're going to have resizable tiling. We'll have to see what that looks like in GNOME 3. There's a tool called Fleet Commander. I've never used it before, but it's supposed to help you out with large distributions of Fedora. I think that might be a pretty cool and useful tool. I don't like boxes. They're saying it's easier, and I love this line, it's easier to consume the RHEL Development Suite subscription directly. Whoopee. I don't like boxes. I personally would prefer a different tool. I would even rather go with a VMware server or client. My personal favorite is VirtualBox, so take it for what you will. LibreOffice gets updated to 5.4. There are some auto text import updates for .x and .m files, so if you have configuration files for Word, you can import them. There's an RTF filter. Huge improvement in the export of bullets and numbering via copy and paste. Well, that's cool because it's been lackluster. If you copy and paste something from, say, a web page or another Word document, pasting in doesn't work too good for bullets and numbering. It loses them usually. Formatting toolbar changes. Now we have watermarks in format. I would think we had them before, but maybe it's a new place. Calc, which is the Excel-like application, sees many improvements here. CSV export settings are remembered. That's good. These are the kind of things that, we talk about the devil being in the details kind of thing. It's like, hey, you really do need to have these basic functions where if I create an export, I shouldn't have to do all the settings all over again. The system should be able to remember it for me. And it looks like that's the case. I don't know how many of you use multiple sheets in a spreadsheet, but I have, and now there will be absolute sheet references instead of relative. Relative, of course, if you move that reference, it's going to break it. Absolute, well, hopefully you could break it with absolute sheet references just as well. The only thing we could do is do some testing and find out. Check this one out. Support negative year date, BCE, also known as before Common Era. Now, depending on who you are, if you're a Christian, it would be BC, before Christ, and AD, Anno Domini, I'm not really sure, but lately things have changed to BCE, before Common Era, and then CE, Common Era, which kind of whitewashes that our calendar is actually based on the birth of Christ. Yeah. Whatever. Let's not get into religion. What else do we have? Fedora Media Writer. There's a new version that allows you to create bootable SD cards. Kind of surprised you couldn't do that before. I really like the Fedora Media Writer. It makes my life so much more simple. I've used it tons of times for thumb drives, and I love it. Okay, so we have a response here we need to do, and another one. We got some keys we're going to install. Looks like we've got all our updates. So these are for all. You notice we've got the new RPM Fusion non-free Fedora 27 and so on. These are all the new Fedora 27 repositories. So we're making a changeover. We've got to support these new repositories. So we are ready for DNF system upgrade reboot. Now, before I do that, I unfortunately have to stop the recording here. All right, one change worth noting. Because we use the command line instead of the GUI to do our installation, instead of showing a basic percentage, it's actually showing me the total number of packages to be installed, 4,696, as well. Technically, it's not the packages to be installed, it's the number of steps. And we're at 135 of 4,696 steps. So there's probably 2,000 to 3,000 packages, and then it's going to do cleanup after that, and then it'll be ready for a reboot. But so far, so good. Everything's flying and looking good. All right, welcome back. Well, good news. The install went without incident. Everything seems fine. I have noticed here in KDE Plasma, things look just a little bit different. So I'll probably go in and tweak some of those settings. But for the most part, everything looks good. Let's run. Well, I want to have a look at Firefox. I'm pretty sure Firefox has gotten a big update. Should be at least version 57. Yeah, it is. Okay. So let's see if I can figure out how to get, about Firefox. So I'm on version 57 now, and everything's running perfectly, at least so far. I am going to log off and log back on as GNOME, and we're going to have a look at what some of the changes are with GNOME. All right, here we are in GNOME 3.26. So, little problem as usual. When I go into OBS, you can see that I am capturing the desktop successfully. When I logged in with GNOME and I was using Wayland, you could not see the desktop. Again, it was a black screen. This has been an ongoing problem ever since Fedora went to Wayland. So any desktop capture software just records a black screen. It's like they only interface with Xorg. So what I had to do was log off, log back on with GNOME 3 using Xorg, and now everything seems to be working okay. Again, it's very snappy. I'm not sure. There was I believe the system tray they were referring to was down here in the lower left-hand corner. So when an app was running, it would pop out here. Well, right now I've got OBS running, and I see a little dot there. I have Firefox running. Am I imagining things? Yeah, I do see a little dot there. Now, if I minimize this, I don't see a dot there. Maybe that just means recording. So if I go ahead and, well, I went up to the corner there. So let's pick an app here. If I move my mouse up to the corner, make a liar out of me. 2 seconds ago it did it, but now it won't. Let's try the bottom left. Nope. Top right. Nope. There we go. I had to like hit the corner with the mouse a couple times, and I got it to pop up. It seems to run fairly fast. I have no complaints. Let's run a video and see what happens. Now, I don't know how well this system's going to be able to handle capturing and running a video. not bad. Will be interesting to see what our frame rate is with the OBS capture, because it's really doing software capture, so you know, it's not the greatest. Let's do... I like K-Sysguard better than the system monitor that comes with GNOME, because it tells me the total CPU usage down here if you run the GNOME version, which I'm going to do right now. So I'll do that again. I'll put in system and do system monitor and cruise over to this is a little different actually. Let's go to resources. It gives me a per core total, but it doesn't tell me what the total processor usage is. So, I mean, you could argue that it does here, you know. I mean, it gives me an approximation, but it's not very precise. Only using 2.4 gigs. If I close Firefox, let's see what our memory goes down to. Hardly anything. I'm actually fairly impressed. So let's look in processes. Check out memory. Yeah, OBS is eating up, you know, a halfway decent amount of memory. And you can see all these processors that are running. And this is one of the reasons why when I ever ran a server, I never used the GUI, because there were so many more processes that create connections to the internet. And that's something you don't want when you're running a server. So I would not allow the GUI to run. I'm really not seeing any big changes. I am surprised to see that I still have my theme intact that I put in. I wonder if Tweak UI is installed still. Whoops. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it is. Let's see if it shows. It's not Tweak UI. What am I saying? It's not Tweak. Don't listen to me. Tweak UI was for Windows back in the 90s. Jeez, Mark. Okay, so still using the flat mix icons, and apparently I installed Mac OS Sierra theme. I didn't even know that on this system. It's been a while, been a minute. So, but I am going to edit this video on here since I'm dumping all the video right now. I'm using my new Logitech 1080p camera and capturing with OBS. So now I did record some of it on my iPhone SE, so I am going to have to get that footage from here. Hopefully it's not going to be a problem. I think it's probably not, so I'm not too worried about it. I really don't see any major differences. Let's just grab a command line real quick. Do a sudo bash. And that ain't going to work because I didn't type my password right, so I'm going to try again. And we will do a uname-r. And we are on Fedora core. Well, Fedora, but the C does mean core. Fedora 27, kernel 4.13. If we do a ps-ef and grep on... no, I don't want to do that actually. Let's do an RPM... dash. Okay, I forgot. Man, RPM. RPM dash Q, and we want. Well, we'll just do GNOME. RPM dash Q. grep. GNOME. Let's try RPM dash QA. Tell you get rusty when you don't use the command line. And we'll grep on GNOME. There we go. Okay, I don't need to see them all, but you can see that we are on 3.26 version of the GNOME desktop. So that's pretty cool. And nah, I guess I won't cancel that way. I don't like doing that. But basically everything looks, you know, the same. Let's check out LibreOffice. See if they've done any major interface changes. Not really. I have to say, everything looks better and easier in 1080p on this computer. When I run it on my desktop in 4K, these icons are so tiny. You know, they should scale, but they really don't. They scale better in Plasma, KDE Plasma, but still Linux is behind the curve because, unfortunately, they're really only working well for 1080p resolution. I mean, if I go run GIMP, for example, this is totally doable for me. All these icons I can see very easily. The problem is they are not set to scale. They will not scale no matter what system you're using, whether it's KDE Plasma or GNOME or whatever. You can get an alternative icon set, but it's a pain in the rear, and if there's any updates, it gets erased. So I don't bother. But when I look at these on my 4K, these are so tiny you can barely tell what they are. And what I usually do, I've learned, you know, this one's obvious, but like you can't tell that's a paint bucket. So I've kind of learned where they are in the relation of, you know, each other so that I can select it. But so I don't have any recent pictures. And this is kind of an ugly interface in here. I think this is a part of GNOME. But anyway, let's go to pictures. Check out this blue ocean view. Beautiful. Opens very fast. Let's apply a filter. What could we do? How about decor? Nah. Artistic. Apply canvas. Okay. Very fast. Check the canvas. I don't like it. It's got basically repeating squares, but you know, and I could undo it. But it's so much easier to use in 1080p, and you're probably wondering why I don't just go ahead with 1080p on my 4K laptop. It's not a big deal when I'm using KDE Plasma, and even with my limited eyesight, 4K looks so much better than 1080p. It's just the sharpness of a Yoga 910 and a Yoga 920 in 4K. You got to see it for yourself. I laugh when all these YouTube reviews of a MacBook say the screen is so sharp with Retina, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't hold a candle to a 4K, a proper quality 4K screen. The gamers know that use 4K monitors. They get the nice monitors. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Anybody who's got a Yoga 910 or 920, no comparison to Retina. No comparison. You can see when you look at the Retina compared to the 920, the sharpness is just amazing. So, yeah, I keep doing that. I'm going to go ahead and close it. Have to say everything seemed to go really well. No problems yet. I'm going to edit this video, so when you see this video, you pretty much know that the edit went well, and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, do the usual, like, and if you haven't subscribed, do that, and please share if you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next time on Fast Gadgets. Have a good weekend.